The call came at 7:43 in the morning. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. A gruff voice asked if I was Kiana Torres. When I said yes, he told me strangers were on my family's land with measuring equipment. My stomach dropped. I threw on jeans and drove 20 minutes to the property, my father's property, the land he'd left when he died 3 years ago. When I arrived, 2 men in polo shirts were walking the perimeter with clipboards. I parked and ran toward them. "What are you doing here?" One of them barely looked up. "Survey work. We're the new owners." I felt the ground tilt under me. "That's impossible. This land belongs to my family." He shrugged. "Your mother already sold it. Closed last week." My hands went numb. My name was required on any sale. I was listed as co-owner on the deed. "That can't be right," I whispered. The man pulled out his phone and showed me a document. There, clear as day, was my signature next to my mother's. But I'd never signed anything. I drove straight to the buyer's office downtown, my heart hammering the entire way. The receptionist barely acknowledged me until I said I needed to see the contract for the Torres property. She made a call, and 10 minutes later, a man in a gray suit appeared. His name was Vincent Harlow. He led me to a conference room and slid a folder across the table. "Everything's in order," he said smoothly. Opened it. There was the contract dated 2 weeks ago. My mother's signature. Mine. Except I'd never seen this document before in my life. The handwriting looked exactly like mine, every loop and curve. "I didn't sign this," I said. Vincent raised an eyebrow. "Your mother assured us you approved everything. She said you were traveling and gave her permission to sign on your behalf." "That's a lie." He leaned back in his chair. "Unfortunately, we have a signed contract. If you have concerns, you'll need to take them up with your attorney." I stared at the paper. Then I noticed something. At the bottom, in tiny print, "Final approval pending confirmation within 60 days. The sale wasn't finalized yet. I called my mother 17 times before she finally answered. "We need to talk," I said. "About what?" Her voice was cold, distant. "You know what? The land. You forged my signature." There was a long pause. Then she sighed. "I did what was necessary, Kiana. That property was sitting there doing nothing. We needed the money." "We? You mean you needed the money? Don't be dramatic. You're too sentimental about that land. It's just dirt and memories. Your father's gone. It's time to move on." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You had no right to sell without asking me. I'm your mother. I have every right to make decisions for this family." Her tone shifted, became harder. "And if you try to interfere with this sale, you'll regret it. There are things you don't understand. Things that go beyond your feelings about your father." "What are you talking about?" She hung up. I sat in my car outside her house, staring at my phone. What had she gotten herself into? And what did she mean by things I didn't understand? I couldn't let it go. The next day, I parked across the street from Vincent Harlow's office and waited. At noon, he came out with another man, older, wearing expensive shoes. They walked to a cafe 2 blocks away. I followed at a distance and sat at a table near theirs, hidden behind a newspaper. "The Torres deal is almost wrapped," Vincent said. "Once we get final approval, we flip it within 6 months. Easy 3 million profit." The older man laughed. "These families never know what they're sitting on. Desperation makes them blind. The daughter might be a problem. She won't be. The mother's already convinced her to stay quiet. And even if she doesn't, the contract's airtight. We've done this 12 times now. Same strategy." My blood ran cold. They were predators. And my mother had handed them everything. When they left, I sat there shaking. The land was worth far more than whatever my mother was paid. I pulled out my phone and searched property records. What I found made my breath catch. The land had a special zoning designation, approved for commercial development. It was worth millions. That evening, someone knocked on my apartment door. I opened it to find a young woman, maybe 25, with nervous eyes. "Are you Kiana Torres?" she asked. I nodded. She glanced down the hallway, then handed me a folded piece of paper. "I work for Vincent Harlow. You need to read this. And you need to act fast." Before I could respond, she was gone. I closed the door and unfolded the note. The handwriting was rushed, messy. "The contract your mother signed has a loophole. Final approval requires confirmation from all listed owners. Your forged signature isn't legally binding if you challenge it before the 60-day window closes. You have 48 hours left. If you want to stop this, you need to move now. But be careful. Vincent has connections everywhere. Don't trust anyone." My hands trembled as I read it again. 48 hours. I grabbed my laptop and started searching for property lawyers. I didn't have much money, but I had to try. Then I remembered something. My father's old office, the boxes I'd never gone through. Maybe there was something there that could help. I drove to my mother's house at midnight. She was asleep. I still had a key from years ago. I crept upstairs to my father's old office, the room she'd kept locked since he died. The door creaked as I opened it. Everything was covered in dust. I found the boxes in the closet, stacked and labeled in my father's careful handwriting. I carried them to my car 3 trips and drove home. For the next 4 hours I went through every document. Bank statements, old tax returns, family photos. Then I found it. A folder marked Land Documents. Inside were surveys, zoning maps, and a letter from the county planning office dated 5 years ago. The land had been approved for mixed-use development, commercial and residential. The estimated value was listed at $8 million. At the bottom of the folder was a handwritten note on lined paper. My father's handwriting. "Kiana, this land is your future. Don't let anyone take it from you. It's worth more than money. It's worth freedom. This is for you." I sat on my floor and cried. Then someone pounded on my door. Froze. The pounding came again, harder. "Kiana Torres, open up." I looked through the peephole. A man in a black jacket, thick arms, cold expression. I didn't recognize him. "What do you want?" called through the door. "Message from Vincent Harlow. Don't delay the approval process. It won't end well for you if you do." "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yeah, you do. Smart girls don't make stupid choices. Remember that." I heard his footsteps fade down the hallway. My heart was racing. I grabbed my phone and called the number on the note the woman had given me. It rang 4 times before she answered. "They're threatening me," I said. "I know. That's how they work. They scare people into compliance." "What do I do?" "You fight back. But you have to be smart. Meet me tomorrow at the coffee shop on Pine Street. 10 in the morning. I'll explain everything." She hung up. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at my kitchen table, staring at my father's note. Then my phone buzzed. Text from my mother. "Don't be foolish, Kiana. You don't understand what you're risking." The coffee shop was crowded. The woman from before sat in the back corner. Her name was Sienna Cross, and she worked as an assistant in Vincent's office. She'd seen what they did to families. "Your mother's in deeper than you think," Sienna said quietly. "She didn't just sell the land. She's been helping Vincent target other families. She gets a cut every time." Felt sick. Why would she do that? Debt. Gambling, probably. She owes people. Bad people. Vincent offered her a way out if she helped him. "How do I stop this?" Sienna leaned forward. "There's a way to intercept the sale from inside the system. You can buy the property yourself before the finalization goes through. But you'd need to do it under a different identity. A shell buyer. If Vincent finds out it's you, he'll block it. How much time do I have?" 36 hours. Maybe less. She slid a business card across the table. "This is a lawyer I trust. Felix Brennan. Tell him I sent you. He'll help you set it up. But Kiana, if your mother finds out, she'll destroy every document connected to you. She's desperate." I took the card. "Thank you." Kiana stood. Be careful. Vincent doesn't lose. Felix Brennan's office was small, tucked above a dry cleaner. He was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with tired eyes and a cluttered desk. I explained everything. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he nodded. We can do this. But it's risky. We'll create a shell company, register it as a legitimate buyer, and submit a bid during the approval window. If it works, the property transfers to you under the company name. Later, you dissolve the company and take ownership directly. How long will it take? We can have the paperwork ready by tonight. But once we submit the bid, there's no going back. If your mother or Vincent discovers what you're doing, they'll challenge it in court. You'll need to be ready for a fight. I'm ready. Felix pulled out a laptop. We'll call the company Clearwater Holdings. I'll list you as the managing member under a variation of your name. Kiana M. Torres instead of Kiana Torres. It's legal, just obscure enough to avoid immediate detection. We worked for 3 hours, filling out forms, signing documents, transferring the small amount of money I had into a new account. When we finished, Felix looked at me seriously. Are you sure about this? By midnight, Clearwater Holdings was registered. Felix submitted the bid electronically through the county's property system. The listing would go live internally for 6 hours, allowing other buyers to compete. Now we wait, Felix said. I went home and paced my apartment. At 3 a.m. my phone buzzed. An email from the county system. Bid received and under review. I tried to sleep but couldn't. At 6 a.m. I checked my email again. Nothing. At 7:30 another email arrived. Multiple bids received. Final determination pending. My stomach twisted. Someone else was bidding. Had to be Vincent. Called Felix. He was already awake. I see it, he said. They're trying to outbid us. But we structured the offer correctly. We have a legal advantage because you're a direct family member. That carries weight in approval processes. What if they win? Then we fight it in court. But let's not assume the worst yet. I sat at my kitchen table, staring at my phone. Every minute felt like an hour. At 9:47 a.m. my phone buzzed. An email from the county. Bid accepted. Property transferred to Clearwater Holdings. Effective immediately. I couldn't breathe. Bid 1. The land was mine. Called Felix immediately. We did it, he said, and I could hear the relief in his voice. The property is legally yours now. Vincent's bid came in 2 minutes after ours. We beat him by seconds. I wanted to cry. I wanted to scream. Instead, I sat in silence, letting it sink in. My father's land was safe. But the celebration didn't last. At 11 o'clock my mother called. Her voice was unnervingly calm. Kiana, we need to talk about the property. What about it? There's been a complication. The sale didn't go through the way it was supposed to. I need you to meet me. Today. It's urgent. I'm busy. Kiana. Her voice turned sharp. This isn't a request. If you don't meet me, you'll regret it. I'm at the cafe on Elm Street. Be here in 20 minutes. She hung up. My hands were shaking. She didn't know yet. She couldn't. But something in her voice told me this was about to get worse. I grabbed my keys and drove to the cafe. She was sitting at a table by the window, her face pale, her hands gripping a coffee cup. When I sat down, she didn't look at me. The buyer is furious, she said quietly. What are you talking about? Yes. She finally looked at me. Her eyes were red, rimmed with exhaustion. The property. Someone else bought it. The sale fell through. Vincent is threatening me. He says I cost him millions. Kept my face neutral. I don't understand. How is that your problem? Because I promised him that land, Kiana. I signed agreements. I took money up front. If he doesn't get the property, I owe him everything back plus interest. I don't have it. Then you shouldn't have made promises you couldn't keep. Her face twisted with anger. You don't understand. These people don't just take your money. They take everything. Your safety. Your life. She grabbed my wrist across the table. I need you to help me find out who bought the land. Vincent thinks it's someone connected to our family. If we can figure out who, maybe we can negotiate. I pulled my hand back. I can't help you with this. Can't or won't. Both. She stared at me for a long moment, then reached for her phone. I grabbed it before she could. What are you doing? She yanked it back. Calling Vincent. If you won't help, maybe he can convince you. I stood up. Don't contact me again until you're ready to tell me the truth about why you really sold that land. I didn't hear from my mother for 2 days. Then on the 3rd day I received a voicemail. Her voice was shaky, broken. Kiana, I made a mistake. Terrible mistake. Don't look for me. Just stay away from this. Please. I called her back immediately. No answer. Called again. Nothing. I tried texting. The messages went unread. Panic started to set in. I drove to her house. The door was unlocked. Inside, everything looked normal except for her bedroom. Clothes were thrown everywhere, drawers pulled open. Her car was gone. Called Felix. My mother's missing. I think Vincent has her. Slow down. What happened? I explained the voicemail, the house. Felix was silent for a moment. We need to be careful. If Vincent knows she failed to deliver the property, he might be using her as leverage. Do you have any way to track her? Her phone. I can check the location. I hung up and opened the tracking app we'd set up years ago when she first started forgetting things. The location loaded slowly. When it appeared, my blood went cold. She was at Vincent's office building. I grabbed my keys and drove there immediately. Adrenaline drowning out every logical thought. I parked across the street and watched the building. 15th floor corner office. I could see shadows moving behind the blinds. I couldn't just walk in. I needed a plan. Then I saw him. Vincent Harlow, stepping out of a black sedan. He walked into the building like he owned the world. I waited 5 minutes, then followed. The lobby was empty except for a security guard. I walked past him confidently like I belonged. He didn't stop me. I took the elevator to the 15th floor. The hallway was silent. Vincent's office was at the end. The door was slightly open. I heard voices. Where is the buyer? Vincent's voice, sharp and angry. I don't know. My mother crying. I swear I don't know who bought it. You're lying. Someone in your family orchestrated this. Was it your daughter? Kiana doesn't know anything about real estate. She's a teacher. She couldn't have done this. Then who? I heard something slam. My mother cried out. I stepped closer, staying out of sight. Through the crack in the door, I could see Vincent standing over her. She was sitting in a chair, her face streaked with tears. I've already filed a request to nullify the sale, Vincent said. If the buyer is using false pretenses, the property reverts to me. And you, Gloria, will still owe me everything. I turned and saw it. A folder on a desk just outside the office, labeled Torres Property, Confidential. I grabbed it and ran. I didn't stop running until I reached my car. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely unlock the door. I threw the folder onto the passenger seat and drove. I didn't know where I was going. I just needed to get away. When I finally pulled over in an empty parking lot, I opened the folder. Inside were copies of contracts, emails, and recordings. Evidence of every deal Vincent had made. Forged signatures. Families coerced into selling. My mother's name appeared multiple times. She'd helped him target vulnerable people, families like ours. There were also voice recordings. Played one. Vincent's voice. If they don't sign, threaten the daughter. People always cave when you go after their kids. Felt sick. This wasn't just about my family. This was a pattern. System. And my mother had been part of it. But there was more. At the bottom of the folder was a document explaining how Vincent had forged my signature. He'd hired a specialist to replicate my handwriting from old family documents my mother had provided. I had everything I needed to destroy him. But he'd realize the folder was missing soon. Called Felix. I have evidence. Everything. But Vincent knows someone took it. Get to my office. We'll figure out the next step. I started the car. Then my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You took something that doesn't belong to you. Bring it back or your mother pays. I didn't respond to the text. Instead, I drove straight to Felix's office. He scanned every document, his expression growing darker with each page. This is enough to bury him, Felix said. Fraud, extortion, forgery. We can turn this over to the authorities. What about my mother? She's complicit, Kiana. She'll face consequences too. I knew he was right. But the thought of my mother in legal trouble, even after everything she'd done, made my chest ache. Can we protect her if she cooperates? Felix hesitated. Maybe. If she testifies against Vincent, they might offer her a deal. But you need to understand she won't get off clean. He nodded. Do it. Contact the authorities. Felix made the calls while I sat in his office, numb. An hour later, 2 investigators arrived. I handed over the folder and explained everything. They listened, took notes, promised action. When they left, Felix looked at me. You should go somewhere safe tonight. Vincent's going to figure out what's happening. I'm not hiding. That night someone pounded on my door. I looked through the peephole. Vincent Harlow. His face was red, his eyes wild. Open the door, Kiana. Go away or I'm calling the police. You think the police scare me? I know people everywhere. You took something from my office. I want it back. I pulled out my phone and started recording. You mean the evidence of your fraud? The forged documents? The recordings of you threatening families? He went silent. You have no idea what you've done. I know exactly what I've done, I said through the door. I've exposed you. You think you've won. You think taking a folder changes anything. Have lawyers. Have connections. You're nobody. Then why are you here? Silence. Then I heard his footsteps retreating. I waited 5 minutes before I opened the door. He was gone. But taped to my door was a note. You'll regret this. I didn't sleep. At 6 a.m., Felix called. The authorities raided Vincent's office an hour ago. They seized his computers, his files, everything. He's in custody. I exhaled for what felt like the first time in days. What about my mother? They picked her up this morning. She's being questioned. They'll offer her a deal if she cooperates fully. Can I see her? Not yet. Give it a day or two. I spent the next 48 hours in a haze. I kept expecting something else to go wrong, for Vincent to somehow escape, for my mother to refuse to cooperate. But slowly, piece by piece, everything fell into place. The investigators found more families Vincent had targeted. 12 in total. Properties worth tens of millions. My mother gave a full statement. She admitted her role, explained how Vincent had manipulated her desperation, how he'd threatened her when she tried to back out. It didn't excuse what she'd done, but it painted a picture. A week later, I met with the lead investigator at the county courthouse. Her name was Officer Brennan. No relation to Felix. She was in her 50s, sharp-eyed, professional. Your mother's cooperation has been valuable, she said. We're recommending a plea agreement. Probation, restitution, community service. No jail time if she complies fully. And Vincent? He's facing 15 counts of fraud, forgery, and extortion. He won't see daylight for a long time. He nodded. Felt surreal. A month ago, I was a teacher living a quiet life. Now I was at the center of a criminal investigation. What happens to the property? Officer Brennan asked. It's legally yours through Clearwater Holdings. Once the investigation closes, you can dissolve the company and take direct ownership. No one can challenge it now. I thanked her and left. Outside, Felix was waiting. You did it, he said. You actually did it. I didn't feel victorious. I felt exhausted. I need to see my mother. Felix drove me to the correctional facility where she was being held temporarily. They allowed a supervised visit. She looked smaller than I remembered. Her hair was grayer. Her hands shook as she sat down across from me. For a long time neither of us spoke. Then she said, "I'm sorry." Her voice cracked. "I'm so sorry, Kiana." I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to yell, to demand answers. Part of me just wanted to leave. "Why did you do it?" asked finally. She looked down at her hands. I was desperate. I owed people money. Gambling debts. I thought I could handle it on my own. Then Vincent found out. He offered me a way to pay it off. I just had to help him find properties, families who were vulnerable. "You sold out our family." "I know." Her voice was barely a whisper. "I told myself it was just business, that you'd understand eventually. But I was lying to myself. I was selfish. And I destroyed the one thing your father wanted you to have." Tears ran down her face. I felt my own eyes sting, but I forced myself to stay steady. "You almost destroyed me too. You forged my signature. You let Vincent threaten me. You told him to scare me into compliance. I thought if I gave him the land, he'd leave us alone. I didn't think you'd fight back. I didn't think you were strong enough." That stung more than anything. "I'm stronger than you ever gave me credit for." She nodded. "I see that now." The guard signaled that our time was up. "Understood." "What happens now?" she asked. "You serve your probation. You make restitution. And you stay away from me until I'm ready to talk again." I didn't visit her again after that. For the next 2 months, I focused on finalizing the property transfer. Felix handled the legal work. Clearwater Holdings was dissolved, and the land officially transferred into my name. The county sent a formal letter confirming ownership. I framed it and hung it in my apartment. The investigation into Vincent concluded. He was sentenced to 18 years in federal prison. 12 families received restitution. Some of their properties were returned. Others received financial compensation. My mother completed her probation requirements. I heard through Felix that she'd moved to a smaller apartment across town and was working part-time at a grocery store. She didn't contact me. I didn't contact her. One Saturday afternoon, I drove out to the land. It was the first time I'd been there since everything happened. The grass was overgrown. The fence needed repair. But it was still beautiful. I walked to the spot where my father used to sit, under the old oak tree. I could almost hear his voice. "This is for you." I sat down and cried. Not from sadness but from relief. From exhaustion. From the weight of everything I'd carried finally lifting. When I stood up I felt lighter. I took out my phone and called Felix. "I'm ready to move forward." Felix and I met the following week to discuss development options. The land's zoning allowed for commercial and residential projects. Developers had already started reaching out, offering partnerships. "You could sell it outright and walk away with $8 million, Felix said. "Or you could develop it yourself. Build something meaningful." Thought about it. What would my father want? Felix smiled. "I think he'd want you to decide for yourself." I decided to develop it. Not into luxury condos or a shopping mall. Into affordable housing. Community space. Something that would actually help people. Took 2 years. 2 years of meetings, permits, contractors, delays. But eventually it was finished. 40 affordable housing units. Community center. Green space for families. On opening day, I stood in the courtyard and watched families move in. Kids ran across the grass. Parents carried boxes into their new homes. An older woman stopped and thanked me. "This is a blessing," she said. I thought about my father. About everything he'd sacrificed to give me a future. About my mother's mistakes and my own fight to reclaim what was mine. "It's exactly what it was supposed to be," I said. That night I received a letter. No return address. Inside was a single handwritten note. "I'm proud of you. I'm sorry for everything. I hope one day you can forgive me." It was my mother's handwriting. I didn't respond. But I kept the letter. 6 months after the housing project opened, I was invited to speak at a county planning meeting. They wanted to hear about the development process, how I'd navigated the complexities of zoning and community engagement. Almost said no. Public speaking terrified me. But Felix convinced me. Your story matters, he said. So I went. I stood in front of 50 people and told them everything. Not just about the development but about my father. About the land he'd left me. About the fight to keep it. When I finished, the room was silent. Then someone started clapping. Others joined. I looked out into the audience and saw her. My mother. Sitting in the back row. Eyes met. She didn't smile. Neither did I. But something passed between us. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But acknowledgement. After the meeting, she approached me carefully. Can we talk? She asked. I hesitated. Then I nodded. We walked outside to a bench near the parking lot. She didn't try to hug me. She just sat down, keeping a respectful distance. I've been following the project, she said. It's incredible. Your father would be so proud. I know. She nodded. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even know if I deserve it. But I want you to know I'm trying. I'm in therapy. I'm working on myself. That's good, I said. And I meant it. We sat in silence for a while. Then she said, I made so many mistakes. I let desperation turn me into someone I didn't recognize. Hurt you. I betrayed your father's memory. I don't know how to fix that. You can't fix it, I said quietly. You can only move forward. And that's what I'm doing too. She wiped her eyes. Can I ask you something? What? How did you do it? How did you fight back when everything seemed impossible? Thought about it. About the fear, the sleepless nights, the moments I wanted to give up. I remembered what was worth fighting for. And I refused to let anyone take it from me. She nodded. You're stronger than I ever was. I learned from the best. My father taught me to keep records. To save everything. To be prepared. You taught me what not to do. It was harsh, but it was honest. She didn't flinch. I deserved that. We sat for a few more minutes. Then she stood. I should go. Thank you for letting me say this. I watched her walk to her car. I didn't feel anger anymore. I didn't feel love either. I just felt tired. But it was a different kind of tired. The kind that comes after a long journey, when you finally reach the end. A year later, I visited the land again. The community was thriving. Kids played basketball in the courtyard. Families gathered for a weekend farmers market. I walked through slowly, taking it all in. Someone called my name. I turned and saw Sienna Cross. The woman who'd slipped me the note that started everything. I heard about what you did, she said. You changed a lot of lives. So did you. If you hadn't warned me, I would have lost everything. She smiled. I'm just glad it worked out. Vincent's appeal was denied, by the way. He's never getting out. Good. We talked for a while. She'd left her job at Vincent's firm and was now working for a non-profit that helped families avoid predatory real estate schemes. Your story inspired a lot of people, she said. Including me. When she left, I sat on the bench near the oak tree. I thought about everything. The fear, the fight, the victory. I thought about my mother, slowly rebuilding her life. I thought about my father, and how his love had carried me through the darkest moments. I pulled out my phone and opened my notes app. I started writing. Not for anyone else. Just for me. This land was supposed to be my father's gift. It became my battleground. And now it's my legacy. Not because of what it's worth, but because of what it represents. Strength. Resilience. The refusal to give up. I visit the land every few weeks now. Sometimes I walk the property alone. Sometimes I bring friends. Once I brought my mother. She didn't say much. She just looked around, taking in the community center, the housing units, the families living their lives. He'd be proud, she said finally. I know. We didn't hug. We didn't make grand promises of reconciliation. But we stood there together in the space my father had left behind, and for the first time in a long time it didn't feel heavy. A few months ago, I received a letter from the county. They wanted to name the community center after my father. Said yes. At the dedication ceremony, I stood in front of a plaque with his name engraved on it. I read the inscription aloud. In memory of a man who believed in legacy, family, and the power of doing what's right. People clap. I looked out at the crowd and saw my mother standing at the edge, tears streaming down her face. I didn't go to her, but I nodded, and she nodded back. That night, I drove home and sat on my balcony, looking out at the city lights. My phone buzzed. A text from Felix. "You did good, Kiana. Really good." I smiled and typed back. "We did good." I set my phone down and closed my eyes. For the first time in 3 years I felt peace. The land was safe. My father's legacy was protected. And I was finally truly free.